As I start the discussion today on tech topic, I would like to quote Jeff Bezos to start. There is no alternative to digital transformation at this moment. Visionary companies will carve out new strategic options for themselves. Those who don't adopt to this change will fail, right? I think very powerful in the current scheme of things. This becomes even more powerful with the three trends colliding in the last few years. One, unprecedented availability of data. I think we are doubling up in every second year in terms of data storage. The cost of data is going down, and the processing capability in terms of tech architecture and people are significantly going up, right? So these three trends collide to make our session even more relevant today. As we go forward, we realize that while this is a huge boon for us, it's also a challenge for some of our CTOs and CIOs in organizations where the technology is becoming more and more redundant every 2 to 3 years, and we have to keep changing and shaping up. And to the confluence of that lies the CIOs and CTOs who hold the key to automation of their respective organizations while inherently adopting their technologies and strategies to the evolving business motives and strategies going forward. Right? As I say that, I would start the discussion, focus our views around how there is value around digital, what should be the digital strategies of companies, and how should we think about it in an enterprise level. Can I request Prakash to go forward to you and start the discussion with your take on how is digital creating operational excellence and beyond in some of our manufacturing organizations?
Yeah, Pradeep, good afternoon, and thank you for giving this opportunity for sharing our views. The quick background, for the complete panel members, just to appreciate what we do. So we are actually one of the world's largest manufacturer of laminated and plastic tubes. We supply to a lot of marquee FMCG clients, across the globe, and India, we almost have a 50% market share in laminated tubes, and we produce almost like 8 billion tubes, per year. So this, and we have a presence in almost like 10 countries, practically all the continents. 20 plants across the globe. Coming to your question, Pratik, so how technology is enabling the business. I think it's goes phenomenal. I think you really can't carve out technology now, especially in these times. You look at pandemic wave, and not only us, I would say across organizations, way IT has played a major role in most of the organizations to ensure the BCP really worked, right? Business continuity happened in irrespective of suddenly our parameters shifted from to the office to the home. And we ensured that. So right from, I would say, cyber security, because that is something which is playing a very critical role again, ensuring our desktops and laptops, etc. They were working way they were working in the office. Suddenly we shifted them to our homes and it working. Then similarly, if I jump to, we are a hardcore B2B manufacturing kind of organization, right? And we there again, while we have SAP, etc., which runs our background, but then we last almost 3-4 years we are heavily invested on industry 4.0 solutions, right? Connecting all our machines, not I would say all, many of our machines on an IoT platform, trying to capture the data on a seamless manner and integrating with ERP. Now, was this done just because it is in vogue these days that you need to do 4.0? I don't think so. I mean, but it really made a big business sense for us because it helps to improve the productivity of the shop floor people. We've actually digitized a lot of our shop floor processes and a few of our plants to start with as a pilot, where we have moved away from complete logbook, manual logbook to a digital logbook. So our complete shift in operations, etc., now actually happen on this particular platform where we are integrating all machines on IoT platform, pushing the data onto SAP, and then even vice versa. So there's a two-way flow which happens, and what we have observed is earlier the data quality has improved. Actually, if you ask me what are the tangible benefits of this, right? Ultimately, why we are doing it. But then over the period, we have seen the quality of data getting captured in the system. That has improved. So this also sets the foundation of doing some sort of a AI, or if you want to do any predictive maintenance analysis, etc. This actually helps it. So this is creating a foundation because you are now capturing. You are not relying on a human to capture this data. It's getting automatically collected from the machines, and then we are trying to analyze it. But yes, still we have got a far way to go. I'm not saying that we have, we are completely transformed ourselves, but this particular initiative of integrating shop floor and mobilizing even our production booking system, that we have gone in a big way. See, earlier, I don't know how many people are there on the panel for manufacturing, background. So every shift you do a production booking, etc. Now for that, we have moved away from laptop desktop entries. We have actually given operators handheld devices which has got SAP Fiori applications embedded on it, and this also has got scanners on it. So this enables to the operators to capture the data on a real-time basis. So a lot of shift in activity has now moved to the real-time basis. The data quality has improved. The productivity of people has improved because now they can actually spend more time on the machines to see the machine performance itself. So this is actually helping in a very slow and a subtle manner in improving the overall, I would say, our ability to analyze the data. So this is just, I'm just touching manufacturing. This similarly, we have done a lot of initiatives. I would say right from sourcing to dispatch. I mean, over the period we have done RPS. The complete the bank reconciliation processes, etc., have been moved to on this process. One quick example, again that really helped in pandemic. But fortunately, we did that automation way before the pandemic hit us. The complete our P2P processes, procure to pay process is totally automated using OCR. It's invoices come, it's get processed, and we have got a invoice verification process, which etc. is again automated. So the point, Pratik, I'm just trying to make it in a in summary. Its technology is so intertwined with the business, you can't just separate it out. I don't think you can have a business without technology, if I had to summarize in one particular word. And incidentally, the quote which you quoted, Jeff Bezos, I also used that quote in one of my internal, newsletter which we were drafting. We have this process of sending out a newsletter, right? And I quoted them. So I was very interesting and coincident. Good. I was really good to hear that. Yeah. So yes, I mean, so if you can't transform yourself, I mean, somebody will come and transform you. I mean, there's for an organization, there's no choice but to adopt digital and keep evolving and transforming yourself. Otherwise, there'll be so many inefficiencies which creep in, and those are really not, I would say, in a long run, it's not good for the organization.
Absolutely, Prakash. Like you're saying, I think digital is the change that matters nowadays, and it has touched every aspect of business, as you're saying. Anil here also knows a little. His organization transformed into touchless, paperless. Anil, how would you think about how do we get preparedness for this transition journey of being touchless or paperless? What would be your views on organizations preparing themselves on this?
The last couple of years have not given time for preparedness, to be precise, if you ask me. And in all of my experience, I will say this was the best period, to do the changes. I have never seen change management was so easily done in any time, in earlier duration. So that is how I see it. But coming back to this whole digital transformation and associated things which you're talking about, I see it in a different way, not I'm doing it just because I have to do it type, So why we are doing all this, we are doing it so that, we can reach to our customer as fast as possible and add value to the business, basically, either on the top line or on the bottom line, to be precise. And otherwise, there's no point of, talking about investing in any new technology or things. So from that perspective, I see four things, which has driving all these changes across organization, not only in my organization, but other organizations also. One is the whole how you expedite the process. When I say you need to react and do the reach to the customer as fast as possible, so how you expedite the process, how you automate the processes, which are repeated in nature, which are time consuming, so that your reaction to the customer is fast. The second is how you automate your operations. When I say operations, could be anything, which is possible wherever you can automate that. And then because of there are two more things which I just want to touch base is social media is a very strong platform these days. How you are exploiting it for creating your own digital presence in the market. You have seen a guy running in Connaught Place area become suddenly a star overnight. So this is another thing which I feel is driving the whole digitization. Last but not least, last 2 years have shown us how you do things differently. I'm just giving an example. We were setting up a manufacturing unit. People cannot travel. How to set up then those machines, lines, and the processes around that. We come up with the remote management. We have come up with the. I may not be able to discuss about the technology and the product which we have used may not be good for me talk about individual things. But we come up with an idea sitting in US how one can configure machine in Saudi Arabia, for example, or Pakistan or any other country for that matter. So we have used technology to our advantage. We have become more innovative than what we used to be earlier. We become much more faster to bring new ideas and new changes and deploy them as quick as possible. I never thought of 20,000, 50,000, 1 lakh employee all of a sudden from next day will start operating from home. You try doing it in a normal situation, I can guarantee you you cannot do it even 10%. But everything become, there were some teething issues, of course, for every business, every company. But all those teething issues were addressed, in a very time-bound and very quick manner. And then it become, a process, and it become a usual practice now. Now we have a different kind of challenge. How you bring those employees back to office? The challenge is now different. So that is a different topic probably for some other time. Now coming back, Pratik, you talked about touchless. It's a very good idea, if you ask me. No doubt. And this pandemic has, put in a requirement how we can minimize, the surface touch in different, processes. But implementing touchless again, is very, very complicated. Not very easy. There are based on the industry which you are operating upon, you may not have everything and anything can be converted into like touchless operation kind of solution. But there are a few things which I just want to talk about where, people has, and we have, exploited technology, from touchless perspective is adoption of infrared sensors, to bring and deploy solutions so that in place of touching things, use that. I have seen adoption of robots, has drastically increased in the industry, so that you have minimal touch, and then you are doing work really, using robots. One very good thing which has happened and in most of the organization is employee, visitor, guest, check-in, check-out become touchless. All of a sudden, we find solution, whether it is image recognition, face recognition, whatever, or access card, system, but, that become touchless, I will say. Then I have also seen integration of access management with various facilities, access also become, touchless, entering into, a restricted area in manufacturing, because manufacturing, depending upon what kind of industry you come from, you don't open, each and every part of shop floor for all, so that become, touchless. The one thing which become very touchless is, the washrooms of every company, for that matter. You go public places across India, suddenly everything become touchless, whether it is auto tapes or soap dispensers or whatever you talk about. So, but when you talk about actually going into manufacturing line and converting into a touchless operation, I think it is still a lot of time and technology and innovation is required to convert that. That's how I see overall scenario. Hope I am able to do justice to your question.
Thanks, Anil. Dhaval, shifting over to you, as we heard from Anil and Prakash saying there's enough value, multiple opportunities and use cases. How do you as a CIO think about the whole data and tech strategy in a manufacturing domain, overcoming these challenges?
Thanks a lot, Pratik, and a very warm welcome and good afternoon to all my fellow panelists. I think you began rightly so with the entire aspect of data and the plethora of data, or how it is exploding per se. And I think with technologies such as Industry 4.0, IoT adoption, and 5G, it is only going to get more complicated. The amount of data that will get generated, the amount of data that will get consumed, and the amount of data that will get stored or retired, I think it is going to see a drastic change. Because with say things like IoT, you are talking about multiple data records or tuples getting generated per second, or to the tune of milliseconds, to be able to look at the way the operations are getting executed on the shop floor. What is the condition of the machine? What is the condition of the product? Right? And what are the downstream constraints that are available? So all of this getting married together, it only increases the data manifold. So I think it is worthwhile to look at it in three parts, according to me. I would say, and if I were to put a framework, you look at data value, you look at data privacy, and you look at data security. So as a framework, you look at these three, and then there will be horizontals which will come, which will be basis the application that comes in. For example, it may be either a top floor or an OT application, or it could be a business application or an IT application that you would talk about, or it could be a fringe application that is available. And the heat map will look different for the different category of applications, and then you would need to devise strategies which are specific to each of the cells within this 3 by 3, if you were to call it. So if you talk about data, so I think it is very important to have an information architecture in place, which purely talks about the data flow, the data exchange, the data storage, and data retrieval. And then from there, you identify as to what is the data that you would like to concentrate on, because there is going to be enough and more data available. It is not about getting more and more data; it is about getting the right data. Importantly, for especially for things like, say, you talk about AI and ML, and which learn from the data that gets generated or from the usage of data and its modification. So very importantly, it is more the quality of data than the data quantity that needs to be focused upon. Um, that is number one. Then the second aspect comes around the privacy. And we are already talking about the data privacy law being on the anvil, and there are some finer modifications being made, and it's only a matter of time before that comes out. Now, to retrofit it is going to be a challenge. And while we may not have the full clarity, what we can do for starters at least is concentrate on data classification. So from a privacy perspective, you look at what is public data, what is confidential data, what is internal data, what is need to know basis. Have a classification in place so that once the framework or the privacy framework is available, it is easier to adopt or implement as per that. Because we are today now hybrid and multi-cloud is a given. Because there will be companies who are utilizing SaaS offerings. They would have some core applications on-prem, and they may also be co-located for certain business critical applications. So hybrid is a given. So that only further complicates the whole scenario in terms of how the data privacy gets addressed. And the last aspect is about the data security, and it's extremely important that we look at data at rest, data in motion, and today we are even talking about data in memory, right? So which is all prone to attacks and cyber crimes. Again, retrofitting security always becomes a challenge. It is important that security becomes a part of the design itself. There are design considerations put in place. There is a security posture which is put in place, and then your applications are able to subscribe to it. So the modification also becomes so much easier. And where it helps particularly is in a multi-cloud environment or in a hybrid cloud environment where you are utilizing the infrastructure elsewhere. So how are you guaranteeing that, or how are you at least safeguarding that data? So that's where I think the data posture comes into picture. So this is my view on this, Pratik, in a nutshell, and I think we can get into different aspects as we move into the discussion.
Oh, thanks, Dhaval. This is very well put. Manish, if I can come to you, what Dhaval laid down for us was what's the end state of this architecture? How should we think about this strategy? If you look at how do companies assess their current state and make decisions on build and buy some of these elements, how would you suggest manufacturing companies to do that?
Yeah. Thank you, Pratik. Thank you, my old panelist friend. And thank you, everyone. Actually, see, nowadays, you cannot think of IT industries without digitalization. It's like become two sides of a single coin, I would say, because only technology cannot work, only IT cannot work, but you mix IT and technology, that's become a digitalization in a broad way. So there is a two era currently. I mean, one is a before COVID and one is after COVID. because COVID has taken in a no doubt it was a big pandemic, and me and you, I mean, we all have lost our many friends, relatives in this, but it has also become up to certain points, up to certain ways, it is going to become a good for the technology point of view also, because it's bring a many new technologies, many new era into the life, many new combinations in a life that help us a lot. I mean, before COVID, we could not even think that we can work from home, we can do our office work from home, and we can run office from a desk of my bedroom, or desk of my dining table or something like that. So that's become possible because of digitalizations. The way IT and technology has grown up and handshake each other, that help us to make it possible this. So this is one of the great example. If we are talking about IoT, MI, ML, AI, and all that, so there are many companies who started things, even not the current era, but since I observed that since 20 years, few companies have started before 25 also, 25-year back also, their machines to be integrated with the systems. So prior to current era, they used to get some technical data called machines, when the machine was stopped, how much hours machine was running, this kind of a purely technical data they used to get. So based on the data, that the department can decide whether this machine need a PM, any parts to be replaced, machine to be replaced, any maintenance work to be done, those kind of activity is planned based on that only, that statistic or the output of the reports of only. But now gradually those parameters is converted with the help of AI and ML. Now you can predict that this machine's life is what, based on current usage, based on current parts conditions. Now you can predict the machine life, even the daily machine productions also, and you can even define that for up to how many months or how many years this machine will work, and when you want to go for a new machine to be ordered. So this kind of imagination, this kind of predictions can be happen because of you are getting the productions data, machines data, machine running cycles, uh, uh, parts to be replaced, that kind of alert you can automate. So the purchase department immediately get an alert from the machine itself that the bearings of the machine is going to be replaced soon, so you order for that. And even the it was now automated that even the purchase department don't need to do anything, automatically order goes to the bearing company, and they send the bearing itself. When the bearing reach to the technical department, they surprise, and they see that, okay, oh, this machine's bearings need to be replaced. So this is happened because of the automation, happened due to the digitalizations. Prior to that, we will never even think on that a machine can send a invite, machine can send a alert, machine can send a note to ERP, so ERP go for a automated PR, and this can happen. So these whole activities, if you go for a manual, it take 1 month or 2 months, but that's here happening in 2 days, 3 days. So that is happened because of digitalizations. So this era is like, say, digitalization era is like part of a life for every man. You see, in your mobile, in your laptops, in your day-to-day activities, everywhere you see the digitalization is become a part of that. Suppose you search something in a Google, correct? Immediately you will get a see of related ads into your Google page. So Google is started using AI. That AI will predict what you are searching. Based on that, they will try to help you from where you will get this, where is this things to be available nearby, things. This kind of help and this type of things is happening because of AI. That is a part of a digitalization. So I think this is the way we are now in a due to this pandemic, we suddenly jump 10-year, above the technology and the trends. So it's really good, and I think we have so many miles to reach, so many milestones to come, and maybe in a 5-year or 10-year, we'll have something new technology which we are not even thinking today also, because the technology is growing in such a big way.
No, absolutely, Manish. Digital is a journey, as you are saying. It's never the end. Rajesh, if I could come to you and ask, saying this IT and the OT part, the information technology and operations technology, your guidance, experience on how do we merge them, get them together?
Thank you, Pratik. Good afternoon for all the panelists. As rightly pointed, good afternoon, sir. So, as rightly pointed out, as a OEM providing a solutions, all the panelists touch upon the right points, right? Because if you see, when we look at Industry 4.0 from the perspective, what we feel is that it is more of actually intensive transformation of data, right? Because today there are huge number of sensors which are coming into the play. There is IT, there is operational technology, right? There is intensive information of data which flows, right? And in the connected environment today, that is what we are talking about, IT and OT convergence. Earlier, OT was separate, IT was separate, but today that cannot happen. As rightly said by Prakash, that today the technology is there. It's taken for granted when you start using the value for your business, right? So, but the hidden technology has a lot of network infrastructure in place, right? So that is very key. When you look at that, then you see so much of data flowing, so much of IT OT convergence happening, so much of sensors being used, right? And the key point is all this has to arrive at the right time so that the analysis can be done and exact actions can be taken, right? That is the key. When we do IT OT convergence, it is just not as everyone said that it is, we are not doing because everyone is doing it, right? So in the same way, when you have to have this kind of infrastructure, then you should get the right information at the right time to actually take decisive actions which will help in actually to enhance your efficiency. The efficiency can be at multiple levels. As everyone said that it can be predictive analysis, correct? It can be predictive maintenance capabilities. It can be in the shop floors, it can be some where you want to change some of the machines by doing post and predictive kind of maintenance approach. So all this has to be taken care. So when you look at this, what we feel is that as from Juniper, so we also have come up with solutions which primarily looks at artificial intelligence and machine learning, right? Completely. So which gives you the capabilities from the network infrastructure perspective, that where may be the issue and what is the issue and how we can resolve it faster. That is more important, because today, if you look at any IT OT and any manufacturing or any smart cities or smart grid, what we call it as everything is smart today. The IoT which is coming up is very smart because they have control systems, they have embedded software, they connect to the network, right? They throw huge amount of data. They gather, they receive, and they throw, right? So if you look at all this, everything is smart. That is why they call it as smart factories, right? So in that way, when you look at it, so the key capabilities, what you need to have is a scale. When you look at this kind of phase-wise approach in digital transformation of your manufacturing or any of your requirements, you have to look at the scale, because today you may have 1,000 sensors, tomorrow you may have 5,000 sensors, right? So the scale should be there, performance should be there, because performance is the key, because you have to get the right information at the right time. So that is the key. So performance has to be there, and then resiliency has to be there, because the network cannot fail. If this kind of approach the customers are taking, then they cannot expect any failures, so that they miss the information which will affect them in the efficiency of their running the productivity, correct? So when you look at all this, what do you see is it's a cloud scale what you require, correct? The cloud scale what we call it as, because key things is, as you keep adding your sensors, you may be adding your Wi-Fi systems, you may be adding your wired networks, then that should be scalable. So once you start adding, you need to have that mind of that fast rollout of this equipments in the network. So once you need to do that kind of rollout, then the cloud is the one which you need to adapt, right? So that I can roll out faster and I can enable those services faster and I can get that efficiency, productivity, right? Low cost, all that is driven. Because if you are slow, then you will again get into the same 2 years back. So that needs to be looked at. And the second point is clearly is that once you have that in the scale, then you need to look at security, because security also becomes a key criteria, because now you have devices, you have applications, you have people, you have process, everything has to be tied to security. As rightly said by Dhaval sir, is that you need to look at all kinds of security, whether it's in storage, it's in memory, like in the same way, applications, devices, everything. So our connected security gives you that capability in terms of giving proactive security, right? Either it's a device, either it's a application, or it's some users using some of the applications in a hybrid cloud architecture, correct? So what we say is that when you look at all this, what happens is that the lot of authentication mechanisms, like what we call it as PPSK, MPSK, the pre-shared key authentication mechanisms, huge transfer of data, all this leads to a cloud scale kind of a network architecture. That is where Juniper comes in terms of taking that cloud adaptability kind of a solution with lot of AI and ML, where you can have proactive identification of problems, whether it's OT, whether it's IT, and we put it together. So that is where I wanted to leave it, because everyone touched it, because it's a hybrid cloud. Yes, you need a hybrid cloud. You sensors, yes, you need a Wi-Fi systems, wired systems, which can give you the right precise information at the right time, right? Resiliency, scale, and the performance. So when you look at all this, if it is driven with AI and ML, it helps you in terms of like a touchless kind of a thing for the network, right? That is the key. So that is where I want to leave it and take it further.
No, absolutely. Thanks, Rajesh. Thanks for your suggestions on IT/OT part. Prakash, as Rajesh touched upon points around some cloud, some compliance, some data security. With a lot of this data comes a lot of compliance. How do you think technology will enable us across these compliances and quality certifications?
Yeah. So, Pratik, I can give you a couple of examples. One from, one is the compliance from, say, personal data and sensitive data, for example, right? And since we have a presence in Europe, for me, it becomes much more pertinent, because we take employees data. I mean, since we have operation in Germany and Poland, GDPR comes into the picture. And that's where we, at least for our complete HRIT solutions, the complete I would say people related, we actually adopted SaaS-based application, and I've ensured that I've gone and actually hosted it out of Germany. And so, that really helps from a lot of perspective in terms of ensuring that, the employee data of European employees, etc., doesn't go out of Europe, etc. So that's how we have, taken care. And then over the period, say for example, there are applications like SAP, SuccessFactors, etc., which help you to meet with these kind of compliances, right? So, and we have adopted it from that perspective. So cloud definitely helps. Similarly, so when I look at my complete plant data, where we have implemented IoT and integrated with the SAP, what we have done is we are working with a couple of service providers like AWS, Azure, etc. So we have moved our complete analytics actually on the cloud. So this was more from ensuring more than compliance. It was from security perspective. So when we evaluated many solutions to ensure that the data security part of it is not compromised, and there's no any inputs going back, and say since we are taking the data on a real-time basis from the machine and pushing onto router, then switches, and then onto the cloud. We also wanted to be sure that the plant perimeter is absolutely secure. So yes, there are definitely clouds helps you to jumpstart this process, and you can see you can fail. You can try out. I would say you can experiment quite a lot in the cloud, and then once you feel that your technology is right, your architecture is right, at that time maybe you can even take a call whether you want to do on premise or you can go to the cloud. See, ultimately, to be honest, cloud is not a panacea for all the problems. At least I don't feel that. Maybe I'm wrong. You always need to take a judgmental call. Look at your complete 5-year TCO of on-prem versus cloud. Sometimes on-prem really works out. It's not that every time cloud is cheaper. You need to. So depending on the, I would say, maturity of the organization at the stage at which you are on the particular project, you can take a call whether you want to, start small, see how things goes up, and then once you have a maturity, or to certain extent the application or processes are stable, you can take a call at that time whether you want to now go on-prem or you want to go fully on cloud.
Exciting, Prakash. Dhawal, if I could come to you next and ask the question, saying everything that was explained, this complexity of multiple technologies, multiple ecosystems and partners and vendors, how do a CTO acknowledge now the whole ecosystem of partners and vendors? How do you work with them?
It's a tough one because the pace at which this technology changes, it's rare that somebody will be on his own completely. Given the diversity of the skills, the complexity of the skills, and more importantly, the pace at which this technology is changing, you would always be playing catch up. So I think it's almost a given that you would need to partner now. You have to be prudent where you want to partner and where your core strength lies, right? And like rightly mentioned by Prakash, also not take a short-term view on this. For this, definitely not take a short-term view. You have to take a long-term view, and I think the best way today to acknowledge that or to implement that is to see if there is any outcome-based model that you can get into with the partner. And I'm consciously trying to keep away from the term vendor because it becomes very transactional. You have to look at partners here, and you look at so is the partner ready to put his skin in the game? Is he ready to walk that extra mile in terms of supporting you? For example, today, if you look at it, the great resignation wave is around, right? So everybody is facing a dearth of talent. In times like these, is the partner able to give you a solution or be able to support you when you need him the most? So that I think that's extremely important. So somewhere I think your KPIs and their KPIs need to align. That's one way of looking at it. Second is in terms of the revenue models, definitely if possible go the outcome way, because while in short term it may look non-profitable, but I think in the long term it definitely helps because the revenue spread or the profit spread that you get will increase with time. And that's where if you're going outcome based, the pound of flesh that he's taking more or less remains the same, but what remains with you keeps on incrementally growing. So that's extremely important. The second thing to look at is that are you investing in somebody with a roadmap, or are you investing in somebody who's only bringing in capabilities because it's in vogue, like rightly discussed earlier, right? So there needs to be a thought process on how you think this particular area of work. Say if we just talk about the cloud adoption today, how you think this thing is expected to mature over the 5 years that to come, or maybe 5 years is too long in today's time period. Maybe look at 3 years. What is your digital roadmap for the next 3 years, and how does that align with these technologies? And is there any convergence or any synergies in the way these two are going about? And then look at the partners that can meaningfully put in interventions at the right points in time to be able to incrementally take you towards this capability, because there cannot be a quantum jump in this. For example, even if you take something like security, you cannot be non-compliant one day and completely compliant the other. It will have to be a journey, because somewhere the goalpost is also moving. You need to keep cognizance of that, and the same applies to the IT and the OT applications also. So that's extremely important to look at. And third is that how nimble is it going to be to switch over? That is extremely important today, because it could be either due to controllable factors or uncontrollable factors. So what are the capabilities that you are tying up with, or you're getting married to, or what are the capabilities that you're possibly keeping a backdoor open to be able to make that delta if it comes to? So I think these three could be the guiding principles to be used, apart from the normal hygiene factors that you look at in terms of the revenue models of the partner, or the tech strategies, his vision over the next maybe so and so period of time, etc. So I think that's a good start.
Thanks, Dhawal. This is super helpful on the partners bit. Anil, as we move to you, I would want to understand, saying the global footprint of manufacturing organizations, partners, cloud, some of this has helped, but what would be your inputs on how do we manage global footprints and technology in conjunction?
Interesting question. It is definitely a global footprint presence in multiple countries, geographies. complicate the matter. There are a few things which I feel personally is of help. One is you can't have too many things, in your store basically. So to standardize and wherever possible from, the technology adoption perspective, so that, you have a standard product technology which you are adopting, standard process around that for installation, commissioning, testing, and then servicing those standards. So that is one side. Second is find whatever solutions or solution provider you are using, they have as much as a spread across the globe. It's not easy. So they may have direct presence or indirect presence. Find out those, and make partner them. You cannot working like vendor customer relationship for such a large organization. You need to move out of vendor customer to the partner relationship. So that is the second piece which I see. The third piece is you may not be able to have expertise available in all the countries, in all the geographies. How you create a center of excellence, which manage your internal environment with the help of service provider or external partners. So that is the third thing which I see. The fourth thing, which is very important now, considering the security challenge and vulnerabilities and threat and whatnot, is how robust and agile is your technology adoption is, so that you can sit in remote, control it, set it off if need be. That is very important. So can I operate my network? Rajesh was talking about Juniper network capability and whatnot. So can I operate sitting in one corner of the world and manage across the globe? And if there is a crisis, can I cut it off from the rest of the world, so that that crisis does not move from one location to another location? So those are few things which I can think of based on my experience working in an organization like ours. Other than that, developing capability, it's a very interesting word that you outsource, you give certain thing to manage service provider and whatnot, but you need to also equally have good capability within your organization. You cannot 100% rely on the external partners and service providers basically. So those are few things which I can think of sharing based on my experience and how we are doing things.
Thanks, Anil. Thanks for this. I think people capability is a very interesting angle you brought up. We have to internalize it rather than keep it outsourced. Manish, as we go towards the fag end of the discussion, I would bring in the mix of self and contract manufacturing entities, right? And how do we think about that as a dynamic in managing technology? There are external parties contract manufacturing for us now.
So, like here, I would share my thoughts. Is you can put RFID cards, digital machines. There are machines come in a market which can be plugged with your machines. So whenever you put your RF card or thumb impression, machine can start. The same way, when you want to stop machine, you have to once again put your RFID card, or you have to put your thumb. So that's where you can control your contract people or the machine running hours into that. So there are also another technology coming in a market where you can verify whether this machine was run by which man, which ID, which user or which person. So that's where it will help you to keep in a separate way.
Understood, Manish. Yeah. Rajesh, as I come to it, I would overlay the discussion. Everything on IoT analytics falls at the center. What covers it around is data security and cyber security. Your take on that?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Because when there is huge data flowing, when there is devices, applications, people using, and today using from work from home, different locations, everything put together, security becomes the most critical point, right? So what we feel is that as Dhaval said, that it should be, security should be a journey, but it should be planned, right? So what we feel is that when you look at security, you need to look at security in different ways, in terms of, because IoTs are what we call it as a headless kind of a thing, right? So you need to provide security to IoT devices. Today, for example, there is a MAC randomization which is happening, correct? So they hide the MAC addresses. So then you need to have a certain authentication, provide those profiles to those IoT devices so that they should only be able to contact the server, not any other machine to machine or any other to the IT, right? So these kind of end-to-end connectivity of the IoTs, you should know entire network, as rightly said. It is not outsourcing. People who are there in the IT network should know their network very well. That is the key. Because if you don't know your network properly, then whatever we bring in as a security doesn't make any sense, right? So the flow, like for example, IoT devices, whether it has to go to the server, or there may be cloud applications which they need to access as a hybrid. So where is those? For example, a Purdue model, what we speak about in the smart industries or industry 4.0, clearly talks about how you need to put your layers across different in a Purdue model, right? It can be PLCs, SCADA machines, then comes the applications. Like that, it goes on creating the layers. So you need to look at the security from every aspect, from the end device to the application, what it is going to access. It can be machine to machine, it can be machine to server, or it can be user to application, application to the cloud. So when you look at all these flows across this network, then security parts plays a very important role. When you enable security, I need to tell that one thing you need to keep in mind, that you should not lose the performance, because security has a lot of processing and it may add a lot of more processing into the network. So you need to balance that, right? How do I balance the security not affecting the performance or not affecting my network architecture? So if you look at that, that is where Juniper talks about connected security, where you can have, as rightly asked, can I sit at one place and segment out if there is any problem in one of the locations? Yes, you can do it, right? You can segment it out, because now you have a complete dashboard of the entire of your network, I can say. And also you can put gates. If it is hacked at one location, for example, immediately if you identify that, you can put gates in all other locations immediately, so that cannot come through any other entry point, correct? Or proactively, can I throw that IoT device which is creating problem? Identify early, throw out the device out of the network, or can be a desktop, or can be a user who is trying to use that. So these are some of the cyber security norms, which we call it as a connected security. That means security cannot be in silos, right? It has to address the IoTs, it has to address the applications, it has to address the hybrid cloud, it has to address the users, and also it has to address the users who are working from home. So all this put together is what we call it as a connected security, wherein anywhere, any issue, you should be able to identify. All this can happen again through artificial intelligence and machine learning, so that we get those kind of behavioral characteristics and we know exactly how the behavior is changing and what precautions and what needs to be taken care, so that I retain my network and remove those affected areas immediately out of the network. That is what is, we call it as a connected security. So with all the assurances and those kind of AI ML using, so we can, there is a solution, but I say it's a process, and it's also a phase-wise approach you need to take, looking at your complete roadmap of your plan.
Thanks, Rajesh. As we sum up the discussion and we come to our fag end of the discussion, I think 4 learnings to adopt, if I could adopt from all the learnings we had today. One, it is programmatic. The change in organizations in digital is programmatic across the board. Second, as Anil brought up the point saying, let's internalize this capability and go forward with people trained in our ecosystems. Dhaval brought up the point on the third pillar, which says that this technology needs a strategy. It also needs an ecosystem of partners to work around and take it global. Right. To this also, Prakash, Manish, you topped up with the fact saying there's a full cultural transformation going around on this. And what better time to do this cultural transformation? So as we wrap up, I would just like to conclude with saying digital is a change journey, as we all discussed, and it's a process to change, which will keep on evolving from now on, right? So that's where we'll end the panel discussion today. Thank you all panelists for this enriching discussion, and thanks for your time.